AI guest. We are very excited to have Charlene Li. She is an entrepreneur and New York Times bestselling author. Her latest book is Winning with AI, which offers a 90-day blueprint to getting AI to drive value for your company. So she's a founder and CEO of Quantum Networks Group. She's a notable speaker. I believe she was just speaking in front of an Oracle conference. Is that right, Charlene? You're a strategic advisor. I'm not sure what else more you can fit into your day, but I'm sure you do. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Charlene?
Sure. I have been a long-time analyst and author. I was at Forrester Research for about 10 years, from 1999 to 2008, and then started my own analyst firm called Altimeter Group, and then sold that in 2015. Worked for various companies, my earnout and everything, but started out, again, back to my entrepreneurial roots in 2023. And one of the things that's really important to me is looking at disruption. And in particular, how do we harness disruption so that we can make it an opportunity for change? Because most people are really trying to avoid disruption, and I'm running towards it. And I think most people
Resistant.
should be able to do that. And AI is very disruptive. So I wrote a book about that called Winning with AI, the 90-day blueprint for success.
So, to get into our first big picture question here, the topic of disruption, your background going back to the 1990s in newspapers, journalism, the impact of the internet on journalism, that's a major disruption. Then into the 2000s, the way the internet search revolution really changed marketing for businesses in general. And now we're living in the age of AI, which is maybe the most disruptive technology of the past, I don't know, 50 or 100 years, some might say. What is in common between these disruptions, and how is AI particularly similar to these other disruptions, and how is it different from them?
Well, the reason why we feel disrupted is because it changes the power dynamics of where you stand. So you know where you are in the world, and then along comes this disruption, and it calls into question, how do I fit into it anymore? And we feel disrupted until we figure out where we're going to fit. Internet was a slower burn, and you could like sort of pick it up slowly as it was developing slowly. Search marketing really changed the power dynamics. I mean, as a small business, you could now get audience and compete against very large organizations. And all you needed was a few cents and pennies and dollars to be able to get audiences that you never could get access to. I remember when it first came out, people were like, well, that's the most ridiculous thing, paying for internet traffic. And then I go, I don't think you understand. This is revolutionary. And then when you come to like social media and AI, significant power shifts again in terms of who can do what and the democratization of communications with social media and now of knowledge with AI. And the reason why AI is so disruptive is that it calls into question like, if AI can do all these amazing things that I can do, and in many cases better, then who am I? How do I create value? So I
So
think we're going through a lot of fear and anxiety right now because we don't have good answers. And organizations are running towards AI without really thinking through how we're going to use it. What's the impact going to be on people, and giving people some ideas of what that actually is going to look like and what it's going to mean to their future.
Charlene, is that like, I want to almost bring up like a bruised ego where it's, hey, I've worked to be this person, this human, and here's my identity. And all of a sudden my world just got disrupted. Is that an ego quality, I guess, that we're sitting with where you feel like you can run towards the disruption and someone might feel paralyzed with this? Talk to me a little bit about that internal struggle and where people are really feeling when their world's disrupted, their identity is disrupted.
Yeah, my previous book was called The Disruption Mindset. And you're right to a great degree that this is about mindset that allows somebody facing the same disruption to be energized by it and run towards it, or feel very defensive and want to circle the wagons. I'll give you an example. When I started using AI, I ran a little experiment. I asked AI to be me and to answer some questions that I had just done on a podcast. So I had my answers, and then I asked AI the same questions and looked at their answers and gave it to some people and said, rate them. And they didn't know which one was what. And AI did about 80% as good a job as I did. 80%. And this was early on, right? And I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, I'm chopped liver. And this was just the generic ChatGPT 3.5. And I couldn't figure out like what was going on here. How do I compete against something like this? And then I looked at the 20% of the questions where I did better. And it was places where I inserted my empathy, my ability to synthesize ideas. I pulled in a conversation I just recently had. And I said, these are the qualities that are uniquely me, that I continue to create value. And I have to focus on these things. And in the book, we talk about this idea of a superhuman, somebody who can take the best of AI and leverage it for all the things that it can do, the amazing things it can do. But the way you use AI and the extra time and capacity it gives you is not to just do more work, but to double down on the things that are uniquely human. And that's what makes you a superhuman. So when you can marry things like empathy, self reflection, intuition, judgment, and wisdom, AI can look like these things and emulate, for example, empathy, but it's never felt pain. It's never walked in the shoes of somebody, and it can't really somebody can feel the difference. And so how do you use your empathy, your wisdom to look at the world differently in a way that AI can't and be able to take it and leverage it in a different way? So people who are running towards disruption understand that and are curious about how they can use AI to amplify their humanity and create a tremendous amount of value in the process.
I always joke that AI hasn't worn heels all day yet. So, knowing the difference between, what a sneaker feels like all day and a nice high heel, a stiletto. But more and more business owners, Charlene, they're going controversial AI like Claude for advice and strategy. So obviously this hits close to home for you as a strategic advisor. So, where do you see the limits of AI in this area? And why do you see human strategic advisors such as yourself continue to retain value and as AI platforms evolve?
Yeah, you can take my entire book, put it into AI. Not that hard. It's already probably in there. There's nothing you can do to control it. And just ask it to be me and give you all the advice that I would give. And it will be good, solid advice that I would give to you. And you can use that to create your strategic plan. But when it comes to changing your leadership and understanding how do I need to lead differently, these are the emotions I have about being in control. This is the concern I have that I don't know everything about AI. And my job as a leader is to know everything, right? Isn't it? It's to have all the answers. And I don't anymore. So, how do I approach that? So, my role as a human is to help bridge that because no AI is going to sit there and be able to walk you through all those things. It can do a pretty good job, but in the end, you want another human oftentimes to hold your hand. And I do believe not everyone's going to want a human and not everyone's going to want an AI. They probably want a combination of the two. And so I think there's still room for everybody who wants to use AI or just read a book to bridge that gap. It's one thing to know it, it's another thing to do it. It's one thing to know I shouldn't be eating this wonderful, delicious pizza or cookie. It's another thing to actually not do that. So there is still this human N factor, called the H factor, that is still an issue that requires humans to bridge.
That goes back to that 80%, 20% split, which is there's just some hard limits with AI. Emotion is time and again the one that AI usually comes up short in. It can sometimes seem like it has emotion, especially with like the character based chatbots. But the reality is that it's just prediction, language prediction. And unfortunately, some people think that they're talking to a machine that can actually feel emotions. But the reality is that if you need that human to human connection in business, and pretty much every business does, focusing in on that 20% is going to be more and more important as more and more tasks are given to AI. And so this seems like a way to adapt in the AI age to succeed as a business is not just to bring in the AI and automate it and use it to automate what you can and take over tasks that you can, but to hone in on the human to human connections. Do you have any advice for business owners in getting to that, growing that kind of human part of the business?
Right. Well, I think AI is incredibly capable, and I agree with you that it's not completely capable of looking at that emotional side of things. It's still a really good resource to use. I use AI all the time to help me navigate difficult conversations, for example,
Mm.
and it's acting like a coach. And also have coaches and people who help me work through some of these things. But AI, they're not available 24/7. So the AI is. So it's a good stopgap. With that said, I think as a business owner, to use AI, and people often ask, how do I use AI to help me figure out how to do all these things? Well, ask AI to tell you how to use AI. But the issue here isn't just say, okay, AI, what can you do? As a business owner, you know your business, you know your people, and you know your customers better than anyone else, better than
Like,
anyone. And so you use AI to help you figure out, first of all, you understand what your strategic objectives are, what your biggest challenges are, what your biggest opportunities are, and can use that as a starting point. And you use AI to figure out, are those the right ones to focus on, to prioritize, and then figure out how to use AI to execute on those priorities. And it's the number one thing we're seeing that is a problem. People don't know where to start with AI. And our Katya and I are so adamant that you start with your biggest problems and your biggest opportunities. Solve those. Go after the big strategic issues that you have. And instead, what most organizations are doing are, well, I don't know what is, I don't know how AI works. So let's do a pilot. Let's pick a small little project over here on the side where it won't matter. And we'll throw one person half time on it to see what works.
get over
And so
here.
it'll be safe and it'll be there. We just so believe you should just kill all your AI pilots. Just kill them all and
Yeah.
only do strategic projects that are going to make a big difference in your business. You don't have time. You have to
Charlene,
be
I
moving at
love
the speed
that.
of trust.
I love that advice so much because, again, you're working with the business owners and leaders that they're winning. They're winning with AI. You wrote a book about it. So, what two signals? I'm going to limit it to two. Signals do you see in the business owners and leaders that are really taking AI, by the horns and leading well and truly winning? What are those two qualities or signals that you see that differentiate them?
The first one is the CEO and the board are actively involved. They haven't delegated it to somebody in IT, for example. And if they, again, they take that strategic lens and they're looking at it and saying, well, how can AI make a big difference in our business? And they're understanding the risks, they're looking at the opportunities. And the second thing is there is imperative to go as fast as they can because people are using AI constantly. They may not be using it at work, but they're using it to help them solve their problems, to plan their trips, to figure out where to put their investments. They're using it all the time. And so if you're not meeting your customers where they are and they're using AI and your organization is not, you're behind. And so the other signal that I see is there is a tremendous appetite for experimentation, which is different than piloting. So pilot is like, we're not serious about this, but experimentation is a whole idea that you want to get fluent with AI. And there's a commitment to the organization to get every single person in the organization, not just AI literate, but fluent. Because if this is the future, then what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for some signal that it's okay to pick up AI and use it? And instead, what most organizations are doing is I'll give you a tool like Copilot or even ChatGPT or Claude, and I'll give you a little bit of training, and then I'm not going to give you any time to be able to actually learn and use it because you've got important work you have to do. And I think it's so short sighted. I mean, you don't actually get fluent with AI, experiment, learn how to use it for your job, feel like it's something you can use and reach for and you trust. If you don't have that level, then you're not going to be able to use AI in the organization in a way that's transformational. So get your leadership involved in a strategic way and go as fast as you can. And in particular, get your team AI fluent.
And these are some good, if we can even get almost back to even before those steps, because what's significant about AI is that it disrupts so many areas of business that it can be overwhelming for business owners to even find out like how they should be implementing the technology at all. So could you share some insights from winning with AI, where I believe the time frame is like a 90-day time frame? Get started with AI and use it to start driving value for your business. To guide business owners, what insights are there for guiding business owners who are truly in that area of like, I don't even know where to start? What should their first steps be here?
Yeah, we broke down the book week by week, and we really worked hard to make sure that each week was doable. Like the checklist at the end of the chapter is just, three things typically of things that you want to do that week. And it's not like plan the entire roadmap of everything you want to do, but it's saying you do need a roadmap at some point. But here are the steps to get to that point. You don't do it overnight. So the very first thing we recommend is to get your small team together. And it should be your highest ranking person who can be strategic, get somebody who is technical, and it may not be necessarily your CIO, but somebody who knows how the technology actually works. I guarantee you there's somebody in your organization who understands what AI can do. Or you can get a consultant to come in. You have somebody on the revenue and customer side, and then have somebody from HR and communications, because you want to be thinking about how you're going to explain this and the implications for your workforce. So get your small team together and make sure they understand how to use AI. And we give three simple examples of ways that AI can be used to do research, to get content, and to be used as a thought partner. And then from there, make sure you have, again, just week by week, we talk about how to have a responsible AI policy. We include a template, for example, on how to do that. We talk about the actual leadership, the person who's going to be accountable for creating your AI plan and delivering value. You have to be able to look at one person and say, did you create value with AI today? And have them be accountable for that. You need a roadmap, and you need all the building blocks to make sure you can actually deliver the culture, the people, the tool sets, and then also the governance and the decision making tools that you need. So these are all step by step ways to begin. But I think it begins by identifying the core team of people who are going to pull this plan together. And over the next 90 days, that team will get together and work week by week to pull that plan. And I love the 90 days because you can go from 1 week where the board goes, come back with a plan. And by the time the next board meeting is, you'll have the plan for them in detail, worked out.
And I love that's why I was going to say the 90 days. And so at that 90-day mark, the idea is you have at least somewhat of a roadmap. Have you seen leaders, because AI is changing so fast, is it normal in, Q2 or Q3 to say, hey, this isn't working, we need to pivot? Are you seeing business owners pivot to a different AI model, or maybe different people in different seats? What are some of those friction points look like after the 90 days, and how do you see
Yeah.
leaders evolve?
Yeah, this is the thing I love about the roadmap, because we actually recommend, okay, just prepare yourself for this, an 18-month roadmap for AI, which sounds ridiculous, right? It sounds, how on earth can you think out 18 months? And you have to. You have to have an idea of where do you want to end up at some point in the future so we can start building for that today. But we also add in something called the adaptive quarterly review. It says at the end of every single quarter, you're looking at your roadmap and you're doing a quick review to say, what has changed? How far have we progressed? Where are we ahead? Where are we behind? What new capabilities do we have? What do we need that we don't have? How has the competition changed? How has the technology changed? How have our customers changed? It's a quick review, and you're revising the next 5 quarters, and you're adding another quarter at the end. It's a rolling 18-month roadmap. And here's the key: the roadmap isn't about the technology and all the things you're going to do, it's about the value you are going to create. And that's a very big difference, because the how of what you're going to do versus the why of how you're going to do it will always change. But ideally, your strategy, your roadmap and view of the future is written in ink. And the actual tactics of how you do it are written in pencil. And we know that you're going to, things will change. Sometimes you may have to take a huge pivot. It's the biggest challenge of leaders, is knowing when do you persist with your strategy, and then when do you pivot. That is the ancient question constantly. When you come up against something, do you push through it, or do you find another way around it? So this roadmap gets everybody on the same page. It allows you to break through the incredible silos that are built into most organizations. I don't care how big you are, you have silos. AI really dislikes silos. Agents don't understand the difference between sales and marketing. But there's data over there. I want to be able to get access to it. What do you mean I can't get access to it? So think about how you can organize your work around decisions rather than data lakes, around the tasks that need to be done rather than by function. And so when you have this different view of the world that is much more AI ready, it changes the way you actually approach the problems. So yeah, things are going to change, I guarantee you. And by the way, I think our whole point about technologies and tool sets is to build for modularity, so that you can swap in different models depending on what your needs are and how the technology changes. If you have think about it as like Lego blocks, where you can just take another piece and put it in. I want blue instead of red today, and you can easily move things back and forth. I see people signing year-long contracts now, even 6-month contracts with their technology providers, because they understand that they need that flexibility to be able to swap in different tools as their needs and the technology changes.
So over dependence on a model, that seems to be one of the preventable challenges that could arise in that 18-month journey. But what are some other common challenges that you're seeing with businesses across this AI adoption journey? And what are some big picture, uh, advice that you would have to business owners, whether they're, you know, 12 months into their own AI implementation, or just at the beginning? What advice would you have to overcoming those challenges that you've seen?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is getting the organization focused on a few big initiatives that are going to really move the needle. I see some organizations saying, oh, we've got Microsoft Copilot, or we've got OpenAI's ChatGPT deployed across the entire organization. We're good. No, that's not, that's just giving people the tools. You actually haven't created value with it. So, what is the value you're going to create? What do you want to do with this technology? And in particular, what is the transformation you want to have? So, again, I keep coming back to this, but I can't emphasize it enough, that it is really thinking about AI not as a technology, but more as a transformational force, and to look at it as a leadership issue. Because when you're talking about transformation, it's no longer about the technology, it has everything to do with people. So spend time on how your culture is going to need to change. Spend time on understanding what skills people need to have, and do you have the right people? Spend time on how work is going to change, and explaining to people what that's going to look like. And that is extremely important, because so many people are fearful and anxious about what AI is going to do to their jobs. And most organizations are doing a terrible, terrible job of explaining, one, how we're going to use AI, and two, what the impact is going to be on you. So instead, they just say nothing. And fear and anxiety and all these negative thoughts fill that vacuum of true communications and leadership coming from the organization. So nobody can ever go up to somebody in an organization and say, don't worry, AI is not going to take your job. First of all, it may not be true, probably isn't true. And second of all, they're not going to believe you, even if you say that. What you can do is to say, AI is going to be a transformational force. We have a plan. This is the plan of how we're going to use it to create value. And we want you to be a part of this. So we're going to give you the tools, the training, and the time to become fluent with AI so that we can figure out together how we're going to use it. Most likely your job is going to change, but we're going to do this together and figure out how that's going to change. And regardless, you're going to be prepared for whichever job you're going to have, either here or someplace else in the company, in the economy, because we want you to be as fully equipped with these new technologies you can. That's very few organizations are saying that and investing in their people to be able to use these tools. And so I think that the biggest barrier right now is that leaders say, I can't even begin to understand how I would use AI or how my organization would use AI, how my people would use it. So I think fluency is absolutely a top priority because you can't begin to put together a strategy for this if you're still holding the technology at bay and holding it at a distance because you don't quite trust it yet.
Yeah, control. Charlene, this has been incredible. Your wisdom is I mean, I'm still digesting all the analogies, especially the one where, your tactics can be in pencil, but the strategy on that roadmap is in pen. And again, the 18-month plan, knowing that this is a marathon. This isn't something that, you're going to be done with in 90 days, or you can just roll something out and like wipe your hands clean. So everyone, we're going to drop the book, her latest book, Winning with AI, in the comments, and the 90-day blueprint to getting to AI. We will have that link in there so you can learn more about it. But Charlene, before we go, how do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more or follow you in your journey?
Yes, all of my content is on LinkedIn, so you can follow me on LinkedIn. And feel free to email me, Charlene at charleneli.com, if you'd like to get in touch. I happily give my email out to people and encourage people to get in touch. So, and I'm very sincere about that. So please, I would love to hear from you about how things are going, what's not working, and of course, if there's a way that I can support you in your AI journey, would love to have that opportunity.
Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much for being
Charlene.
on the show.
Bye.